Alright, well, what we're going to do today is cleaning up the back and found some of these foam ant bodies. I don't know where I even got them. I had 5 or 6 packs of them, so I must have bought them for a reason, but not sure why. But today we're going to tie a tarpon fly, and we're going to use that foam ant body to help suspend the fly. We're going to start off with a Gamakatsu SC15 number 2/0 great tarpon hook, thin wire, large gap. Pretty standard hook down here in South Florida for tarpon fishing. And then the next thing we're going to do is add a zonker tail. This will be a backcountry fly, so we'll go with a little darker color scheme for laid up fish that have been around here in the Everglades lately with this warmer weather. But I like the Rob McLean's Freestone Flies is the brand. These barred dyed zonkers are probably the most, I don't know, the highest quality, at least the ones I've seen. I mean, Hairline, Wapsi, there's several brands out there, but they don't seem to have the quality that the Freestone Fly brand or the dyeing process. I know Rob developed a process 10 or so years ago that everybody's been trying to imitate, and no one seemed to be able to copy it exactly. Nonetheless, we've got a little 2-inch, 3-inch strip of black and purple barred zonker on here, Magnum strip. Gives it a lot more hair, a lot more movement in the water. Then we're going to take a grizzly matuka feather. I love the marabou base, the stiffer barbules. I tie with these feathers a lot for transitioning from a tail to the head. You can put a mono anti-fouling loop under here if you want. The hackles on the matuka will kind of act as an anti-fouling device as well. Nonetheless, I'm going to cut off the thicker part of the stem and get it into where I can work with it a little bit. And I'm going to tie that in and just palmer it. Get that nice marabou base there first. Then you start to get into the little stiffer barbules that'll lay back nicely and form a nice little collar here on this fly. So I'm just going to palmer this grizzly matuka feather. And it doesn't really matter how clean it is right now. We're going to clean it all up here in a second. So basically I've got my collar, help me transition from the tail to the head, make some light wraps to lay it all back. And certainly you could fish it just like that. You know, that's kind of a fly in and of itself, but the whole point of this is kind of using some different techniques and materials. And I have these foam ant bodies laying around, like I said. These are white, but we're going to color them black when we're done to match the shape and size and style of the fly. But you know, I'm going to measure it on here just to see if there's any adjustments. This one looks like it's going to fit pretty good. I'm going to put it on the top of the fly here, so let me go ahead and get this secured back here to where it's going to fit nice. Make a couple fairly tight wraps to hold that foam, and I wrap underneath it just to kind of kick it up. Now we're going to do something a little different. Maybe you guys do or don't use, I don't know, dubbing loops, but I love working with a dubbing loop. You just get a little tool here that spreads the line apart. And I'm going to cover the shank of the hook here with the thread, move it up to the eye of the hook. But basically I'm holding open a loop of thread via this little tool, and I'm going to put some wax in here. Now obviously a dubbing loop is for putting in dubbing. However, you can put anything you want in this loop, and when you twist it, it's going to make a brush. So we're going to do something a little different. It's a technique I use a lot on bonefish flies for making really nice heads. I'm going to take a piece of cross-cut rabbit. So basically I just have a piece of cross-cut rabbit here, and I'm going to stick this in that dubbing loop. And the reason I'm doing it in the dubbing loop instead of palmering it is I don't want that thick hide bulking up my fly. So what I can do is by sticking this rabbit with the hide onto one side and the hair on the other, what I'm going to do is simply come back once I get that guy in there, get a sharp pair of scissors, and I'm going to come and I'm going to trim the hide off of the hair so that the only thing left in the loop is just the actual the rabbit hair. So I've got a little loop here with rabbit hair trapped. I'm going to come and twist my tool now. Get it nice and tight before I let it go. And I'm going to form a brush. Essentially it's a rabbit hair hackle. Kind of cool. But I use this a lot on flies where I don't want the thickness of of the hide here. I just cut that hide right off, so now I don't have to have that bulk in my fly. So now what I'm going to do is basically work this like I would if it were a rabbit strip or a cross-cut rabbit or a hackle. I'm going to palmer it, starting back here at the very back of the fly to get a nice underbelly of material for this fly to have a little bit of volume, a little bit of movement. It's kind of a cool technique. Like I said, always trying to think of little things to add to these videos maybe you haven't seen before, different materials, different little concepts. And just like you would anything else, we're going to tie it off right there at the head. So basically we've got our body, we got everything done. I mean, this basically for all intent and purposes is the fly. I mean, we can sit here and do some other things, but I'm basically going to pull all the hairs out from underneath. Maybe give it a quick little haircut just to get some of that hair that's going to be pushed out kind of funny out of there. Get those guys cut out. Come over here and just trim up the head just a little bit, get those stragglers out of the eye. But that's it, you know, basically that's done. So now all I do is I take this ant body, the one we already tied in, and just come up to where the point is and catch it with the thread. Just tie it off. Few straggler hairs, I could catch them with the tying, but we'll just clean those up a little bit, get those out of there. Yeah. So basically the fly for our purposes is done. We've got a nice movement oriented tail, nice transition with the matuka, a nice underbody here of rabbit that's going to pulsate. Don't have a lot of bulk because we cut the hide off and did a dubbing loop. And we got this foam top that's going to help it suspend, very similar to like a toad, tarpon toad style suspension technique. You know, the toad head basically just slows down the sink rate of the fly. Well, that's essentially what this foam is going to do, just a little quicker than tying a toad head in some instances, I guess. And I'm going to color this white foam black. You can buy these things pre-colored. I mean, I've seen them in a bunch of different colors. I just happen to have some white ones laying around, so the white is what we're going to tie with and just color. You can find a million different styles. You could cut a piece of foam. I just like the fact that these little ant bodies are already kind of a neat little shape. You know, they're flat on the bottom, which kind of is conducive to this. They got a nice tapering head. So this is all done. We're going to do this one more little thing here to make it fancy, because we're fly tiers, and certainly fancier is better, or certainly aesthetically pleasing. I'm going to trim a little piece of the foam off on each side of these heads, give me a flat area, and I'm going to glue some eyes, because eyes make everything look good. So basically on the one side facing me, we're going to glue on some of these 3D epoxy eyes. If I can get my Zap-A-Gap open, always seems to clog up. Cut off a little piece. Alright, so put a little zap on that flat end section where I just cut to allow the surface area to give me a good area for those eyes to adhere to. Take my $30 scissors, which is a great idea here, and push down so that the eyes will adhere to that area without getting them stuck to my finger. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. A little zap there. You could use hot glue. Just didn't have the hot glue gun ready for this, but that would certainly work as well. I just lay the eye where I want it, and then I push down. I'm going to let it set for a couple of seconds, and there's that. Looks like cut a little piece. So that's it, guys. It looks like I had somebody walk in, so I have to cut this a little short. There it is, a little zap on the head, and we're all done, guys. So just to give you a nice little example of a tarpon fly you can do with those foam ant bodies, something a little different, a little creative. So good luck tying.